Good morning, everyone. Today we're working on a 1988 Ford Bronco II. This is the 2.9 liter engine V6. The problem with this car today is when you turn the key, the engine cranks, but we're getting no fuel pressure. The car cranks just fine. Battery voltage is at 12.3, I believe, something around there. And the car will crank, but you don't smell any fuel in the tailpipe. It doesn't smell like there's any gasoline up in the engine area. So we got the fuel gauge, pressure gauge, and I got 0. There's going to be a few things that you want to check in order to know which direction to go. It could be an electrical problem, could be a mechanical problem, but if you pick yourself up one of these Shilton books, inside they have manuals, or diagrams, wiring diagrams, which it looks scary, but take your time with it. It's not that hard. We're going to be looking at the 1988. Where'd it go? That's 90 up here. 89, 88 was very similar years. Darn it, I thought I had the page. So this will work. So on your Bronco, the fuel pump actually is getting power from the fuel pump relay. Where is it at? It's under my finger. The fuel pump relay actually goes to, this is a better diagram down here. Here we are. Okay, so when you actually, let's take a step back. We need to know if we have an electrical problem or if we have a mechanical problem. It could be that there's the pump is just old. This car is from '88. It does have the original fuel pumps, never been changed. So the fuel pumps are 37 years old now. So definitely could be that. However, these cars, or at least this version of it, came with 2 fuel pumps. It has a high pressure and a low pressure fuel pump, and I think that's reflected in the diagram. No, not really. Fuel tank unit. But it has a fuel pump on the chassis, just under the driver's side door, and then there's a fuel pump in the tank. But we want to do a couple checks before we get to that point. So first thing we need to do is make sure that our fuse is okay. If you pull off your kick panel, you'll see at the bottom it says electric fuel pump control. So electric fuel pump control is fuse 18, and 18 is that bottom corner next to that empty spot across from the turn signal. And here we are. So I already pulled out that fuse, and it is giving me it is a good fuse. I ohmed it. Even though the fuse may look good, you want to check it with the ohm meter to make sure that there's just nothing wrong with it. It could be maybe like a damage that we can't see, which I know is super unlikely, but just in case, do that. The second thing we want to look at is our inertial switch. The inertial switches on these old Fords have a little ball bearing that will trip a position, and it will cut out the voltage to the fuel pumps. It was a safety measure in case of an accident. So under here, behind your carpet, there is an inertia switch. In the event of an accident, the little head will pop up, and then it cuts out the voltage to the fuel pumps. So these wires actually are running voltage back there. The head itself, to reset it, you just push down on it. See? But mine's not tripped. If those two are okay, and your fuel pressure still reads 0, we have to go to the relays. I took my hair box off because my relay had fallen off of a relay had fallen off of that little clip, and it had fallen under the box. And then of course mice were in here and all that. So I was really fearful that mice were in here. This relay normally should be right up here, but you know, I bounce mine around the farm and stuff all the time, so it just wiggled off. Now I know that this is the fuel pump relay because we have the diagram here that shows the fuel pump relay with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires. Okay, we got 4 up here, and then the 1 in the back. And then the colors match to what I'm seeing up here, where I have the fuel pump relay. You notice that this node, this group of connections, is coming from like a hub. This hub is right here. So this hub, what do you call it? It's just relay. This relay feeds power to the ECU. Then we have direct power from this distribution block on this red wire. Okay. That red wire, see, it's red wire, comes up, and it's what's going to power this coil. So when we flip the key, the electronic engine control module is going to ground, and then this tan with light green wire will allow the voltage to run through it. We can test, we need to make sure that we have 12 volts coming up to our coil. We need to make sure that our tan wire is able to go through the electronic control module. At that point, we need to see if this black and yellow wire have power. If you follow this black and yellow wire, it's coming from the fuses, from the power distribution box, it says. So this yellow wire, black and yellow, mine's yellow and black right here. So I'm getting 12 volts on this, and I'm getting 12 volts on this, which is what you need for a relay. You need to have 12 volts to run this coil. When this coil is allowed to be energized by the ECU, this relay closes, and now we have a direct path from this 12 volts down to our pumps, in this case the 2 pumps, and that'll be on the orange with light blue. I have 2 pumps in this car. If you look here, there's 2 wires coming off of that same pin. You see that? And this is orange. I mean, these wires are from, you know, they're 35 years old, but it's orange and light blue, and there's 2 of them. So you're gonna want to, if you're unsure if you're getting power to the pumps, you can put your meter here, then reference to ground, and see if you're getting power. So I have a meter now, my free gift from Harbor Freight. It's set to DC voltage. You can set 20, it won't matter to it. This is just maximum ratings. So I am on the pins on the back of the relay. I have turned on the ECU, and here I'm going to test that if I have power from my pump supply, which is the orange and light blue, which should be plus 12 volts, then I'm going to reference it to a ground. Lucky for me, ground is right here. So I'm coming off of the orange and light blue, and I get nothing. So at this point, I'm thinking electrical problem. Then to verify that, I put a jumper wire. So I have a piece of wire that I put in place with those pins, you see, with those wires. It's a piece of 16 gauge solid, and I wanted to use solid because the solid wires you can almost use as a pin, and you can push it into the housing. Now, according to this diagram, if I have 12 volts coming out of my fuel pump relay going to my pump should run. So I'm going to attach it to this 12 volts on the battery, and I want to see if my fuel pumps turn on. Okay, so I can actually hear the fuel pumps running, and I saw my pressure go up. And pressure is staying steady. It's pretty good for some 35-year-old pumps. At this point, it looks like I have an electrical problem. Something either with this relay or something not grounding for that ECU coil. If you look at the chart, the red line comes up out of the hub. It goes up to the coil, the relay, and then this tan and light green wire needs to get grounded through the ECU, the electronic control module. If that coil does not get ground, then this relay will never activate. And I realized that I never tested this to see if there was an actual ground on it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use our solid core wire, and we're gonna tap we're gonna probe that tan light green, and then we're gonna ground it straight to the battery. Okay, so I have my solid wire on the tan and light green. So now when I touch ground, the pumps will turn on, or should turn on. Oh, heard that? So by us being able to ground that relay, let me pull that out so I don't short anything. That test shows that if this relay gets ground, it activates, and that electronic coil closes the fuel pump circuit, and we heard them running. That means somewhere down this line, we're not getting a good ground. It could be a ground coming off of the actual module. It could be the wire is corroded. My car sits outdoors, and the wiring will begin to get corrosion on it. On these cars, the ECU module is here on the right side, and on mine, I already pulled the panels off of here. I pulled the you have to do the aluminum trim that sits along the edge here. Then you can pull back your carpet, and in here is the ECU connector. Now on mine, so if you look down here, there's moisture, and that moisture is just because the car sits outside. It's 37 years old. The the seals ain't what they used to be. So on mine, I was checking this ground wire here, and when I did that, I heard the pumps turn on. So something in here wasn't making a good connection. And now by reseating and wiggling this, I've been able to get the pumps to turn on consistently with the key. So before you guys go and spend money on fuel pumps or relays or on eBay or in the junkyard, do a couple of quick tests. Make sure your fuses are okay. Make sure your inertia switch is set. You know, the inertia switch is kind of tricky because when you pull the plug off the inertia switch, you really don't have anything to reference to. You're just reading an open connector. You really have to find a ground. And if your system isn't working right, you're not going to see that full 12 volts. So it'll be misleading to you. The best thing that we could do is isolate it at that relay. And now that we know the pinout, it's actually fairly easy to force the system. If you come to your relay and you know that you have battery voltage on that red wire, and you know that you have 12 volts coming down that yellow wire, then your relay should work, because that's what you need. 12 volts here at this node for when that relay closes, and 12 volts here to get that coil excited. After that, ground this pin. That should close and your fuel pumps will turn on. You're forcing the electrical system to get voltage that way. Now if it doesn't work at that point, it could be the bad relay here in my hand, or it could be if the relay doesn't close, if you don't feel it clicking, it's a bad relay. If you do feel it clicking but nothing happens with your fuel pumps, either this yellow, this orange, these two orange wires could be bad, or your fuel pumps could be bad. But with two fuel pumps, chances are they won't both go bad at the same time. Now if you come over and you ground this and that relay clicks, and then as soon as you let go of your wire, the relay unclicks, that means the ECM, something in that module is not letting it see its path to ground. This whole unit is that box that we saw right there at that kick panel. So it's important that those pins, and you can see these are all pins. That's what these numbers are. They're pin numbers. That they're dry and clean. I didn't have to take mine off. I just gave it a good wiggle, and it started to work. But hopefully this helps somebody, because I know I struggled with it for a couple days. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below and I'll try to respond. Have a good one.